Hello and welcome to Bite Size Boxing. This is just a very brief preview for Yuniel Dorticos versus Gilberto Ramirez taking place this weekend. An interesting fight, I'll be frank. Dorticos for a long time was my favourite fighter in the whole of the sport. In and around sort of 2017, 2018, I loved Yuniel Dorticos. Guaranteed entertainment, back and forth. He hasn't got that typical Cuban style. A real gunslinger, hard puncher. I loved prime Yuniel Dorticos. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what we've got now. So I'll, put this up front now. I think Gilberto Ramirez beats Dorticos at this juncture. If this was prime for prime, I would probably be favouring Dorticos. Not the best technical boxer, which is not what you associate with Cubans, but Dorticos is somebody who can punch exceptionally hard. I mean, that Cudriasov fight will be burned in my memory forever. He's got good wins over the likes of Tabiti. He's been in there with, of course, people like Maris Breedis as well. This is a guy who's been fighting at world level for many years now. However, Dorticos really the last sort of, I think, 3 or 4 years has been out in the wilderness, fighting kind of miscellaneous opposition. And I think Dorticos is about 40 years old now. So we have got a fighter who really and truly hasn't been fighting at a decent level for a while. And, he's 40. So how much can you really expect from Yuniel Dorticos at this point? What I will say is he has got a style, at least, that doesn't age the worst. It's not like he's a mover. He is essentially just a slugger who punches bloody hard. So that style will age a little bit better. However, prime Dorticos did rely on his athleticism somewhat. If you go back and watch, for example, that Kudryashov fight, it was a case of, right, I'm going to be a gunslinger, you're going to be a gunslinger, but I'm going to land first and I'm going to land quicker to the target. And that's what happened. If he hasn't quite got that same level of athleticism, which I doubt he will, again, the Kudryashov fight, he would have been, in and around 30, and now he's, 40. So I don't expect him to be quite as athletic, therefore landing on that target is not necessarily going to come quite as easy as it used to. That being said, Gilberto Ramirez is not the fastest fighter in the world. He's a little bit sort of, considering he stepped up from 168, which is crazy, it's insane. He's not as fleet of foot as you'd expect. He's a little bit ploddy. He has kind of a strange kind of movement to him, Gilberto Ramirez. He's kind of robotic in the way that he moves. He's not like a lot of lighter fighters moving up where you expect him to be quite fast. He is quite cumbersome. So I would say prime for prime, I would say Dorticos was the faster fighter. But at this stage, I do think that Gilberto Ramirez will have enough nous just to outbox Dorticos over 12 most likely, because for all of his flaws, Gilberto Ramirez has got a decent boxing brain on him. He can stick a jab. He isn't the quickest around the ring, but he can kind of move and he's got decent fundamentals. And I do think fundamentally he is probably a bit better put together than Dorticos. So I'm sort of leaning to Gilberto Ramirez in this one. Of course, the fight we all want to see is Jai Opetaia, but it does seem that Ramirez is looking at kind of wrapping up all the other belts and everything before he faces Opetaia, because I don't think anybody beats Opetaia at Cruiserweight, and I think most people would agree. So it is kind of a shame, because Opetaia is kind of semi being frozen out, really. He's kind of having to just fight sort of miscellaneous opposition, while his contemporaries sort of clean up all the other belts and then face him. So if Dorticos won, it wouldn't shock me. As I say, prime for prime, I would be picking Dorticos, probably by knockout. If not, to drop Gilberto Ramirez enough times to probably just persuade him and maybe beat him on points, relatively lopsided. But I don't think that we've got a prime Dorticos. So I would fancy Gilberto Ramirez, probably relatively wide as well. Don't get me wrong, if Dorticos still has that power, which he probably should, even though he's old, power is the last thing to go. I do expect, if he lands on Ramirez, as good whiskers as Ramirez has shown, I do expect it to have an effect. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if you saw Ramirez get hurt or even dropped in this fight. But I just think that, unfortunately, Dorticos is too long in the tooth. He hasn't been fighting at a high enough level in recent years. So I just think that Ramirez does take this one on points. But what say you? You let me know. Thank you very much. Take it easy. Cheers.